fellow degenerates, it's your boy Rot, and welcome back to the channel, though if you're new here, then hi, hello, howdy-o, nice to have you here. I'm sick while recording this, so if I sound really stinky and poopy, that is why. Ignore it. So, like a whole year ago, I made a video for Pride Month talking about my experience being a queer. We already know that the things that I said about my gender in that video are not accurate up to current day, as I went from a non-binary person to coming out as a trans man in August, about 2.5 months later. And I am still a dude bro, a bro-tato chip. Make no mistake about that. I made a video a little bit over a month ago in which I talked more about that some, if you're interested, but today I'm going to be discussing something else entirely. You know, it's kind of awkward to have to come out once publicly, but twice? Bro! Cringe! Stink ass! Embarrassing, dog! I'm gonna be like 20 whole years old in a couple weeks from when this video probably goes up. You would think I'd be old enough to understand my own sexuality, but you would be wrong about that, Gorge. I'm just a smooth brain, I guess. I'm just kidding. I know that it's completely normal and not at all shameful for somebody to question their sexuality or gender identity at, like, any time in their life. Don't worry, I'm just taking the piss out of myself a little bit for funsies. But yeah, I did not mention it publicly until now, but I've been having a sexuality crisis throughout the front half of this year, having started in late February and ending in mid-May, so I wanted to talk about that in this video. Now, if you've seen my old Pride video, the two things that are still true are that I'm technically still polyamorous, I'll talk about that just like for a second later, and that I am still very much a romance-repulsed aromantic, or apathiromantic if you want to use the very niche micro-label that has a really ugly flag. Like, seriously? It just looks like Blood took the Italian flag, flipped it on its side, and then put an X over it? No Italians allowed, I guess. I don't fuck with no Italians, dog. We already know my gender went from unspecified non-binary to dude bro trademark, and then that just leaves my bisexuality that I talked about in that old Pride video, which, as you may have guessed, is no more. You know, it turns out I've realized that I am greysexual. Yeah, bet you never saw that one coming. It turns out I'm fucking aroace. Who would've thunk it? I like to think that nobody could have guessed this, and that everyone is just as shocked as I was when I realized this, but maybe someone clocked me, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you thought that this was gonna happen, I guess. LMAO. So today I want to talk about how I realized I was greysexual, talk about what asexuality, and by extension, greysexuality is, and then tell some stories about myself to explain how greysexuality applies to me, and my life, and my realization of it. Before I get into all of that, though, I want to stop and take a moment to thank Boning and Cotton Balls for being members on Ko-Fi. If you're able to and want to support me monetarily, then my Ko-Fi is down in the card link below. You could either make a one-time donation with the value of your choosing, or you could become a member for some extra perks such as commission discounts, access to my work in progress art, and the benefit of having your name featured in videos, just like this. I also just, like, really love money, and so you should just give some to me, like, for no particular reason. You should just give me money. Besides Ko-Fi, I also still have commissions open. Woo! Specifics about my prices and terms of service can be, as usual, found on the commission terms page in my card. If you perhaps want someone to draw you something gory or weird that makes normal people go, ew, why? Then I would be your man. Hit me up, girly pops. Again, if you'd also like to order a commission from me, you just need to DM me on any one of my socials. Shameless self-promo out of the way, let's get into it. Well, so, how did I originally find out that I was greysexual? How did this sexuality crisis start? Well, you see, okay. So, like, in February, I ended up with a has-been hotel hyperfixation against my will, which might eventually become a special interest if it lasts long enough, as cursed as that thought is. We'll see, I guess. You know, I didn't think that the show was very good. In fact, I think that it was kind of a bad. But, I like the characters conceptually enough to want to take those little guys and put them in situations. In circumstances, if you will. Basically, I wanted to write fics and draw them a bunch. I don't know. As you probably know, if you know anything about Has Been Hotel, the character of Alistair is canonically aroace. Now, I have known that I was aromantic since middle school, but learning that I am utterly and completely disgusted and repulsed by romance was a more recent, in the last few years, type of development, and it was also not necessarily painful, but very difficult for me. And I think aromanticism is very interesting and oftentimes forgotten about, especially on the extreme end of things like I am, mostly because of how our society values and props up romantic love as something more important than literally any other kind of love for some reason. I don't know. So I decided that one of the things that I wanted to explore was romance repulsed aromanticism, and also asexuality in general, as well as in the context of intimate relationships through the character of Alistair discovering his orientation. I haven't gotten that far yet because I take 3 million years to write anything, and I have a bunch of character arcs to balance at once. Don't come for me. Now, admittedly, I didn't know that much about asexuality going in. I knew the basic definition, and I have a couple of ace friends that I know very well, but specifics and details about microlabels were something that I knew very little about. So actually trying to do my research when it comes to representation, unlike some people, I decided that I wanted to write Alistair as specifically greysexual. So I looked into it and did some reading and uh-oh! I started to realize that a lot of the aspects of greysexuality applied to my personal experience, and I identified with the experiences of a lot of greysexual individuals that were sharing their own online. And this was in late February, okay? And at the time I was like, no, couldn't be me. I have too high of a sex drive, and I like men and women too much, right? There's just some overlap that doesn't actually indicate that I might have been wrong in thinking I was just bisexual for like 10 years. So, I read up, and I decided to try to move on with my life like a normal person. However, I kept on thinking about it. It kept coming up in my mind again. And this was especially the case being that I was, like, writing about it a lot. And there was this time in early April that I was, like, drunk off my gourd at, like, 2 in the morning, and I was just laying in bed and staring at the ceiling like, shit, dog, fuck! And it finally came to a head last month when, after having been questioning it for a while, it just sort of clicked that, yeah, I'm probably on the ace spectrum. So I nervously came out to the friends and the family, who I was keeping this questioning thing from for fear that I'd be, like, challenged on it. And they were all pretty accepting and nice. So yeah, you heard that right. I got my fucking asexuality egg cracked by Alistair Hasbin Hotel. I am crying and throwing up. I am so embarrassed. You have no idea. Okay, sorry. I had to step away from the mic and lose my mind for a few minutes. I think I am going to die in Minecraft. Okay, in all seriousness, I think that it's very important for me to explain what asexuality is and what asexuality isn't, because there are many common misconceptions that people, including me at one point, tend to have about it. And I think that it's important to do this because even in many queer spaces, ace people are oftentimes not understood, infantilized, or sometimes even entirely erased, and I feel like it's valuable to therefore elaborate on it. The common definition for an asexual person is somebody who experiences little to no sexual attraction. Seems pretty straightforward, right? Well, I thought so, and that's not quite the case. There are layers. So peeling back the first layer, what is sexual attraction per se? I know that question seems very obvious to all of you allos, and you may be laughing at me right now, but I was seriously so confused about this that I feel that it's important to elaborate, Sweaty. Sexual attraction is, well, a usually intense feeling that makes people desire sexual contact with another person. It is direct, person-centered, and specific. It's a desire that one gets when they are looking at or thinking about a specific person and they want to have sexual contact with that person that they are perceiving in that moment. Now, the reason why I needed to be so specific about that is because now we get onto what really tends to trip people up, me included at a point. Libido. Libido, also known as the sex drive, is oftentimes confused and conflated with sexual attraction. Libido is all about the desire to experience sexual pleasure or release. It's the desire to have sex in a sort of, like, vacuum, whereas sexual attraction is the specific state of finding another person attractive and wanting to have sex with them. If that seems a little bit confusing, then I don't blame you. Let me give you a little bit of an analogy here. Think of libido as hunger. You're hungry and you really want to eat something. Your stomach is grumbling and you want a meal. Someone could set food right in front of you, and while you may be hungry, that food could be completely unappealing to you. You are not hungry for that food, you are just hungry in general. Sexual attraction in this case would be seeing or thinking about a food that you really like or that looks tasty and really wanting to eat it while perceiving it. Imagine looking at a big plate of food and going, I want to eat that. That would be sexual attraction. I hope that makes sense. So, one could have a very high libido or sex drive, but they could also be not attracted to anyone and therefore don't want to act on it. Or someone could have a low libido but could experience sexual attraction often and intensely to different people and therefore want to act on their attraction. Conversely, somebody could of course have low libido and experience no sexual attraction, and somebody could have very high libido and experience sexual attraction frequently and intensely. Libido and attraction are extremely subjective, separate, I stress, separate things that vary often wildly from person to person. And this was something that I didn't really understand all that well up until very recently. So, yes, an asexual person could have a libido that is high or a libido that is low. What makes them asexual is not their sex drive or lack thereof. What makes them asexual is their lack of sexual attraction to the other people around them. Keep in mind, asexuality also does not equal celibacy. While there are many asexual people that are completely averse and or are uninterested in sex, others may choose to engage with another person for various reasons. It could be that they like the sensation, or they want to please their partner, or maybe they simply just enjoy the close physical intimacy of the act and how it makes them feel emotionally. Whether or not somebody chooses to have sex is like their own business and is completely up to them, and it's not really anyone else's business unless you're that person's partner. I've seen a lot of allos online, allos being, short for allosexual, which means somebody who is sexual, just come out and ask random ace strangers about their preferences, like, when you say you're asexual, how asexual are you? As if whether or not this stranger has sex is, one, their business, or as if it would make them less ace if they did? No. Neither celibacy nor intimacy determines whether somebody is asexual or allosexual. What determines sexuality is sexual attraction or lack thereof. Now, changing gears a little bit, there are many different types of attraction, and a lot of them tend to be confused with sexual attraction. So I wanted to talk about some of the other forms of attraction that are commonly misconstrued as sexual. First of all, there's sensual attraction, which is basically just the desire that somebody has to touch another person and, have physical contact with them in a non-sexual way. This could be anything from hugging to cuddling or holding hands, that kind of thing. Oftentimes this is also described as skin hunger or touch starvation, and because it's not romantic or sexual in nature, you could desire this kind of platonic contact from friends and family, as well as romantic and or sexual partners. It just kind of depends. Then there's aesthetic attraction, which is basically when somebody can appreciate the beauty of another person in a way that is completely divorced from sexual or romantic desire. Think of this like when people appreciate the beauty of celebrities. A straight woman might look at a female celebrity and admire their physical appearance without it being sexual in nature. Emotional attraction is also a thing, which is usually described as the desire to want to get to know somebody personally. This kind of attraction could be applied to platonic, sexual, or romantic relationships. It could be applied to anyone, basically. Finally, there's romantic attraction, which is just the desire to have romantic contact or relationships with another person or persons. This one in particular is very difficult for a lot of people to, describe, and being that I don't experience it and find it repulsive, I can't offer much elaboration on it. I recommend just looking into it if you're interested in what romance is and how romance feels. I wouldn't know. Now, all of these kinds of attractions are separate things. They can all be experienced together. You could experience only one or two, or you could experience none. So keep in mind, asexual people could experience none, some, or all of these other kinds of attraction to other people. They simply don't feel, or feel very little, sexual attraction. Got it? Got it. Put a pin in this for now because I will be talking about my experiences with some of these other forms of attraction later, and about how I got them mixed up with sexual attraction. Now in this next sort of section, I'm going to be talking about my personal experiences regarding sexual attraction or lack thereof, in this case, other kinds of attraction, libido, greysexuality, and what that is, and other stuff related to that. Personally, I think that sex is a topic that everybody should be less ashamed about collectively. I am very sex positive, and I think that it's important not to shirk away from or act like the topic is inherently gross and forbidden or whatnot. I do not have any problems with or reservations about talking about it at all. I also think that it's important to lay things out like this because it may help someone that's in a very similar confused place that I was in to understand themselves better, and I think that's very cool and good. I think we should all collectively, no matter who we are, question ourselves and think about our identities more. Even if you question your gender or sexuality and then it turns out that you were just straight and cis the whole time, then you'll know that for sure and might even be happier, more comfortable, and confident in your identity. Unlock Cis Plus, why don't you? Whether or not my experience is personally relatable to you, it can be helpful and or reassuring to hear about other perspectives sometimes. However, I also know that some people may not, super duper want to hear about specifics or might just be uncomfortable with the sex talk in general, so feel free to opt out now if that's just going to be awkward for you, I guess. This video has timestamps, so you can skip past that particular section if you'd like. Okay, so let's get into it. So first of all, we need to talk about greysexuality and explain it so that you can get an idea of why I might not have clued into this before now. Greysexuality, also known as grey asexuality, grey ace, or grey A, is a kind of umbrella term that describes anyone on the ace spectrum between asexuality, no sexual attraction, and allosexuality, sexual attraction. You see, asexuality is a spectrum. While some people may experience no sexual attraction, other people may experience some, but in either unconventional or inconsistent ways, and the latter type of people would be greysexuals. Specifics about sexual attraction, how it is experienced, and how people act on it or don't act on it, and other aspects of that are all highly subjective, and that is why asexuality and grey ace by extension is an umbrella term that describes a spectrum and not just one specific thing. I can't get into all of the micro-labels under greysexuality, of course, but I can list off some of the common overlaps and experiences that a lot of greysexual people share. Greysexuality includes, but is not limited to, people that experience sexual attraction but it's low and infrequent, people that have trouble deciphering whether or not the attraction that they're feeling to someone else is sexual in nature, people that may experience attraction but either have a low libido or no interest in acting on it, people who enjoy and desire sex but only in very specific and limited circumstances, or people that don't feel as though they need sex and are indifferent to it, or averse. There are more specifics, overlaps, and quirks in regards to specific microlabels that I would recommend looking into if you think that they might apply to you, or if you're just curious in general. So, how do any of these things apply to me? Well, I realized relatively recently that I don't actually experience sexual attraction to other human beings. I don't think I have ever looked at a person or thought about a person directly, perceiving them, and experienced the desire to engage with them sexually. Never in my life. And I did not realize this for the longest time because I experienced other forms of attraction to them. Growing up, I was never sexually attracted to my peers or anyone my age at all, and I was acutely aware of all of this. I actually dated a few people, but I was never attracted to them sexually, and especially not romantically. Recall that I am romance repulsed and disgusted by romantic gestures, relationships, and language. At the time, I just thought I must have only been attracted to older people. I'd claimed before that my taste is people of all genders in their late 20s to early 40s with a preference for women or femme-presenting people. However, in retrospect, I realized that this assumption was actually just wrong. The only reason why I assumed that I must have been into older adults was, 1, because I didn't really find any of my peers attractive, and 2, because I usually find older adults more aesthetically attractive and well put together than the average teen or young adult. Now, if this is the case, why was I so confused? Well, the answer is I was confusing sexual attraction with a mixture of high libido, aesthetic attraction, emotional attraction, and interest in fictional characters and weird extreme sexual content. Let me explain. While I'm not directly attracted to other human beings in real life, I have a pretty high libido, and I've had one ever since I was a kid. Sorry if this is a TMI for you or whatnot, but I've been cranking the old hog very consistently for 7 years at this point, and I've always had a fixation on fictional sexual content. I like thinking about sex, I like writing about sex, I like drawing sex, I like watching sex. Basically, I'm horny. Very horny. Shamelessly, I am horny on main, and I am not sorry. I also realize that I have a very extreme taste in fictional content that is not even remotely vanilla. In particular, I enjoy sexualized gore, cannibalism, and violence. In the context of fiction only, though, of course. My tastes are highly particular, and I tend to be very picky about scenarios, but I've never really cared about what the actors or characters in the media look like as much as I care about what they're doing. I also tend to experience actual interest and maybe attraction to specific fictional characters, though again, I'm very picky. Now, that's all in the context of fictional sexual content and characters, but what about real people? Well, you see, I tend to find a lot of people, like human beings, aesthetically attractive. I can very easily admire the beauty of others, especially femme people, and I would get this confused with sexual interest in them quite often. When it comes to relationships I've had in the past, most of the attraction that I felt to them was intense emotional attraction, you know? In that sense, I cared about them very deeply in a platonic kind of way. Looking back, the two people that I actually thought that I might have been interested in like a sexual type of way were actually just my favorite people. Recall that I have BPD. At each respective time that I believed that I might have been attracted to them, and the sort of obsession that the BPD-FP brings confused me into maybe thinking that I was sexually and romantically interested in them. Turns out I wasn't Gorge, and the little Adderall BPD chimp in my brain just really liked them, was obsessive, and wanted to be close to them and important to them platonically. You know, sometimes that weird little guy just wants to crawl into their skin, wear it, and be their all-encompassing, one and only, in a completely not romantic and also not healthy type of way. Don't worry, I have a handle on that at this point, but it is worth mentioning as something that confused me in the past. So, in all, I don't experience any sort of sexual desire or attraction for other real-life people. I merely have a high libido, an interest in fictional sexual content of both the normal and deranged varieties, and I experience other forms of attraction, such as aesthetic and emotional to real people that confuse me. Several months ago, I even realized that I have no desire to have sex with another real person, like, at all. This is especially the case because I am a top and have zero interest in bottoming in any fashion, and I don't pass because I haven't cut my goddamn tits off, and I also haven't started taking tea just yet, though I hope to start soon. I'm not necessarily entirely averse to the idea of boning, but I'm also rather indifferent, uncomfortable with it at the moment, and I just don't really give a fuck. I'm legit happy just getting off alone by myself. I don't know, man. There was a time, you know, because my libido is very high, that I was very fixated on sleeping with someone. On 3 separate occasions, the second that that possibility became actually tangible, I felt myself get squicked out and I instantly put a stop to them. I won't talk about the time that I was, like, really young, like 13, in too much detail, but I will just say that I dated this person that was my age for about a year. He wanted to take our relationship to a physical, sexual level, and I bowed out and broke up with him immediately before it was to happen out of aversion to that, as well as just realizing that I wasn't romantically attracted to him and he wanted something from me that I could not give him. A couple years ago, I had my next major relationship, this time when I was 17 and 18 with a 21-year-old that super duper pressured me into dating her, counting down the days until I turned 18 even. Fuck you if you stalk me and watched this video. I don't know. I mean, besides the questionable age gap, she frequently overstepped my boundaries about romantic gestures and disregarded that I was and am repulsed by them. But what is relevant about her in regards to my asexuality is that she was, like, super duper jealous of this fictional character that I used to thirst over. Like, I would just thirst over this fictional man, and then she would come to me and be like, "Why didn't you talk about me like that?" And at the time, I didn't really know this, but it was because I was wholly uninterested in being intimate with her, or anyone else, LMAO. When she began talking about moving cross-country to live with me, fawning about how we could be a cute romantic couple and bang like animals, I broke things off pretty quick there too. Finally, and this is the most recent example, I decided that I had been lonely long enough and I downloaded Tinder. My goal was literally to have casual sex with a bunch of randos. I was, and am still, pretty uninterested in dating, so I downloaded the app, and all I did that for was to get laid. There was no other reason, like, deadass. This was about a year ago, last spring, specifically while I was still in college, and when I still presented femme, by the way. At the time, I remember I was talking to, like, several interested people, but one guy in particular was, like, super hot, very aesthetically attractive to me, and he wanted to bang. But, like, the second that the flirting turned into a legit, very real, like, question of, so when and where do I pick you up, I bailed. I deleted the app, completely uncomfortable and uninterested in getting physical with him, even though I thought he was aesthetically attractive. At the time, I thought all of these times were just indicative of me being a coward, or me being traumatized, or me being not ready for whatever reason. So I just assumed that the right person would come along eventually. I mean, I totally wanted to fuck, right? Wrong, sweaty. I was horny, am horny, but I'm just not horny for anyone else. And well, I started putting the pieces together upon looking into greysexuality more because I was researching it to write about that fuck-ass deer cunt from Has-Been Hotel of all things. My life is a British comedy. Girl, where am I? So, yeah, I'm aroace. Isn't that fun? Just as an aside, I would still consider myself polyamorous because I enjoy the idea of a polycule or a QPR with multiple people at once. You know how there's, like, the polycule and then they have the guy who's just there? I'm the guy who's just there. I don't feel sexual attraction towards real people, and I don't have any interest in having a partner or whatever else. To be honest, this realization doesn't really change that much for anyone else but myself, because I'm just now starting to understand myself a little bit more, and this is not as crazy as my, like, gender reveal. Lol. Ultimately, I'm still young, though, and there are still many things that I have left to figure out. I'm not sure if I'm entirely uninterested in sex, like, forever. I'll probably have an intimate partner at some point, but I know I'm uninterested in having a sexual relationship with anyone right now, for sure. I basically just use my writing and my art, and the writing and art I consume by extension, to vicariously experience fantasies and live through fictional characters, and that's completely enough for me. At least for right now. If anything that I said in this video resonated with you, then again, I'd encourage you to look into asexuality, greysexuality, microlabels under it, and explore your feelings. Feel free to share your experience with asexuality in the comments as well if you are ace, and if you're comfortable doing that. And also if you have, like, questions for me about something that I either didn't cover or that might have confused you that I said, I also would not mind answering them as long as you're respectful about your questions. And there you have it. Thank you all for watching. If you got to the end of this video, rate and subscribe if you feel inclined to do so. Remember that all of my socials and Ko-Fi are linked in the description if you want to support me. You should also buy a commission from me if you like my art. I need money to cut my tits off. I hope that you all have a great rest of your day, and I will now bid you all adieu.